Well, you know what? People do look at me and see me as creative because I've written so many books, and I am curious. But when I started off in college, in my freshman psych class, they gave us a test for each student to take on creativity. And there were 17 in that class. I can remember it well. And I was at the bottom of the class on creativity. I mean, I was like number 17 out of 17. And what the teacher posted the scores. And so, I mean, I saw how bad I was. And then I really felt bad, not only because I wasn't creative, but I was going to go pastor, I was going to go into ministry, I was going to teach, I was going to do sermons. And then I got to thinking to myself, I'm going to be another boring preacher. And you know, that just gripped me. I thought, oh, this is going to be awful. I'm going to bore people all my life, you know what I mean? And then I'm going to ask them to pay while they hear me. I mean, this is an awful deal. So, and so two things I did. And I talk about it in the book. One is I started filing. I started taking thoughts and quotes. And the reason I started doing that is I thought, if I'm not going to be good at what I say, I need to quote somebody that is good. And so I started filing things that other people would say. So I'd go around and I'd say, well, Ken said, you know what I mean? And Joe said, and Susie said. And so that at least I would be a little bit more interested. And that's how it started. But the big breakthrough I had was, and this will help everyone. How many of you would like to be more creative? Let me see your hands, okay? How many of you would like to just absolutely have an imagination that just took you to a new level? You know what I'm saying? Okay. How many of you already have that because you're on drugs? Okay. Well, here's the key. This will work for you. I promise it'll work for you because it worked for me. I made a major change in my early 30s from just having answers and being a leader that just had to cast vision, show everybody what I was doing and where we were going. And I started asking intentional questions. And I became a person, I ask questions all the time. Every day I ask questions. And I have found just asking questions will take you on exciting journeys more than anything else. You excel in that, Ken. I've watched you over the years. You'd excel really in that. But for my early years, I didn't ask enough questions, and so therefore, I didn't get enough ideas and thoughts from others. So when people say, I want to be more creative, what's step one? Step number one is ask more questions. Just go to people and start asking questions. It's amazing what you'll learn.
Some of the most important discoveries, inventions, and innovations within a field come from people who are trained in a much different field and who have an outsider's approach. Louis Pasteur was a classic example of this. He was trained as a chemist and mineralogist, so he brought a much different way of thinking to the subject of medicine and germs, a method that was infinitely more creative. Albert Einstein was a complete outsider. His two most important discoveries came when he was working at the Swiss Patent Office. Google itself exemplifies this idea. It is perhaps the most successful business on the planet, founded by two men who are relatively complete outsiders to business and who therefore structured and directed their company in a very novel and creative fashion. I could go on and on and on with this list, including many great artists. There are two important reasons why outsiders generally have a creative advantage. First, they are less steeped in and burdened by the conventions of the field that they are attacking. They ask a different set of questions. They approach problems from unconventional angles. And second, they are often trained in totally unrelated fields and so can make interesting and creative connections between two very different forms of thinking, like science and business, or chemistry and medicine, or engineering and design. Now, we can't all consciously follow such a path, but even within the careers that we're pursuing, we can train ourselves to think like outsiders and help loosen up the mind in the process.
That whatever you do, somebody can do it better. You have to bring your A game in every single day. There's nothing unique about any one individual. What's unique is their passion, their ability to execute, to meet targets and exceed them. The minute you lose that ability, in capitalism, you're gone. It's a fair trade. The engine that makes you rich can take it all away from you. There are no guarantees. I think that's incredibly important.
It looks like you always go out of your comfort zone, right? Coming onto an island that was completely deserted, no fresh water. You didn't even have the money to buy it. And now you're sleeping on a tent on the beach trying to figure out how to get fresh water here. You do that often. You did it with the airline.
I mean, I was just somebody that experienced the bad experience of traveling on airlines. I was actually trying to get to the BVI, the British Virgin Islands, one day from Puerto Rico, and the same lovely lady was waiting for me, and I'd been away for 3 weeks, and American Airlines bumped the flight. And so I went to the back of the airport, I hired a plane, I hired a blackboard, I wrote Virgin Airlines one way, $29 to the BVI, went around all the people who'd been bumped, and I filled my first plane. And that got me thinking, you know, that airlines do bump people. They don't care about you or me, particularly in the air. And so so I then rang up Boeing and said, do you have any second-hand 747s?
No kidding. I mean, it was literally that. You just sat in the airport and said, I'm starting an airline right now because I'm frustrated.
Exactly. And I think most of the best entrepreneurial ideas come out of frustration. I think, you know, if you're frustrated about something, the best way of sorting it out is get out and do it, and you've got yourself a business.
We know from our past experiences that big things start small. You know, the biggest oak starts from an acorn, and you've got to recognize, if you want to do anything new, you've got to be willing to let that acorn grow into a little sapling and then finally into a small tree, and maybe one day it'll be a big business on its own.
And in fact, that's one of the mottos for one of your initiatives, and forgive my pronunciation of the Latin, but Gradatim Ferociter. What does that mean to you?
Well, it means step by step ferociously, and it's the motto for Blue Origin. Basically, you can't skip steps. You have to put one foot in front of the other. Things take time. There are no shortcuts. But you want to do those steps with, you know, passion and ferocity.
Yeah, I started working at this video store, was pretty much what you're talking about around that time, and it was great at first because I'd always hated day jobs and stuff, and so I got a day job and it ended up being pretty good. But admittedly, I was there for 5 years. At a certain point, it was a narcotic. All right, I didn't have to keep pursuing my dreams because, you know, it's not what I want to do, but it's sort of kind of close. And if I didn't have an artist soul burning in me, I could have made myself happy with that. I could, if I didn't have an artist soul burning to get out, I could have, you know, walked backwards a couple steps and just done that. And that would have been a fulfilling, well, to anybody else, it would have been a fulfilling life. It wouldn't have been for me because I would have known I would have had something to say that I didn't get a chance to say. But it did put me to sleep for a while. And I've always just thought, I mean, what really got everything kind of truly going for me, you could point out a lot of different things, but the bottom line is the fact that I realized that even the group of people I hung around with, they were all great fellas and great gals. But, you know, it was easy for me to think that I was doing a lot because I was doing more to try to move myself forward than they were. But, you know, that's not, okay, I'm a big fish in a puddle. So what, all right? They're not doing anything, all right? So yeah, I'm doing more than them. But I realized that actually I need to get my ass out to Hollywood and meet other people who are, you know, like in my category or working a little higher, and I should be the weakest link in my chain that I have, and that'll make me be stronger, it'll make me run faster. I mean, like an analogy I've always used is, all right, if you run the 100-yard dash with people that can't run as fast as you, yeah, you'll win, hands down, you know that. But if you run with people much faster than you, all right, yeah, you might come in last every single time, but your time will be better because they're making you run all the faster. They're making you dig down just a little bit more. It doesn't matter that you won, your time is faster. And that's what I knew I had to do. I had to get out of Loserville and throw myself into a place where, like, this is what I do for a living.
One night, Chris had gone to bed. I'd been struggling. We still had all the same problems. We still had a lien on the house, still facing bankruptcy, still fighting like crazy. I was still unemployed. They still hadn't figured out like the solution yet for the business. And I was about to turn off the TV, and there on the TV, there was this rocket launching, and I thought, oh my gosh, that is it. I am gonna launch myself out of bed like a rocket ship, like NASA, right here, had launched me out of that bed. And I'm gonna move so fast that I don't think. I'm gonna beat my brain. Now, here's a really interesting point. I talk a lot about your instincts and inner wisdom. And we can get into this a little bit later, but a lot of us talk about the fact that you have a gut feeling. But what all this research that I've done for the book and all the speaking that I do, what I've discovered that's fascinating is actually when you set goals, when you have an intention on something that you want to change about your life, your brain helps you. What it does is it opens up a checklist, and then your brain goes to work trying to remind you of that intention that you set. And it's really important to develop the skill, and I say that word purposefully, the skill of knowing how to hear that inner wisdom and that intention kicking in and leaning into it quickly. So for me, my brain saying, that's it, right there, move as fast as a rocket, Mel. I wanted to change my life. And I think most people that are miserable or that are really like dying to be great and dying to have more, we want to change. We want to live a better life. We want to create more for our families. We want to be happier. The desire is there. Again, it's about how do you go from knowledge to action. So the first thing in this story that's important is realizing that the answer was in me. And my mind was telling me, pay attention. Could have also been the bourbon. I had a couple of Manhattans that night. But anyway, the next morning, the alarm goes off, and I pretended NASA was there. It's the stupidest story. I literally went 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I counted out loud, and then I stood up. And I'll never forget standing there in my bedroom. It was dark, it was cold, it was winter in Boston. And for the first time in 3 months, I had beaten my habit of hitting the snooze button. I couldn't believe it, and I thought, wait a minute. Counting backwards, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. Well, the next morning I used it again and it worked. The next morning I used it again and it worked. The next morning I used it again and it worked. And then I started to notice something really interesting. There were moments all day long, just like that 5-second moment in bed, where I knew, knowledge, what I should do. And if I didn't move within 5 seconds, my brain would step in and talk me out of it. Every human being has a 5-second window, might even be shorter for you. You have about a 5-second window in which you can move from idea to action before your brain kicks into full gear and sabotages any change in behavior. Because remember, your brain is wired to stop you from doing things that are uncomfortable or uncertain or scary. It's your job to learn how to move from those ideas that could change everything into acting on them.
There's deep neural networks for dummies, right? If you go in, there's a something for dummies in every room of my house, you know. It can go two ways, I know, but I'm just telling you, put the time. I mean, I've taken, you know, I can't even tell you how many hours now I spend every week, if not daily, working. Like I'll go onto Amazon, AWS, and go through their machine learning tutorials. Don't think to yourself, I'm not technical enough, or I'm not going to get this, or I don't get into this, or it's too much. Try it. Get as far as you can, because it's like doing a basic website and a little bit of HTML. Just having done that, you feel smarter and you feel a little bit more confident about this. You know, I don't want to be an alarmist, but I'm trying to scare the hell out of you because it's important.
It's a very natural process to begin something, to be very excited, and then as you go down that process to realize, yeah, I actually don't like this, it's not giving me as much energy as I thought it would, it's taking energy away, and therefore I want to give up and quit that thing. And she said, if you do that once or twice, like, hey, so be it, but if you're doing it every time, if you just love that initial rush, that excitement of something new, but the actual nitty-gritty reality of getting good at it, of doing what Michio Kaku calls having butt power, meaning you sit your butt in the seat and you do the work, if that's really your problem and nothing is interesting enough for you to sit there and do the work, you haven't developed grit yet. And so grit is the ability to persevere, to see things through, to go past the point at which it has stopped being fun and it becomes boring because you believe in your end goal enough, you're excited by what you're trying to accomplish so much that you're willing to fight through all of that difficulty. You're willing to fight through the boredom. You're willing to fight through the unease that arises when you step outside your comfort zone. You're doing things you're not good at and things that are boring. Those are the two things that I find kill most people. They just cannot handle the things that make them go, oh God, like I'm not very good at this and I'm feeling really badly about myself. And they forget that they can get good on a long enough timeline. And then two, inevitably, in any pursuit of greatness, in any endeavor where you're trying to gain mastery, you're gonna get bored because practice is repetition. It's doing something over and over and over and over to really train yourself to get to the point where you're truly exceptional. And there's just so much boredom inherent in that process. So building in the resilience to see all that stuff through is the key part of grit.
And when I say life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you, I really don't know if that's true. I'm just making a conscious choice to perceive challenges as something beneficial so that I can deal with them in the most productive way. You'll come up with your own style. That's part of the fun.
So when we came to America, we were poor and broke, the way I looked at it, because we would always run out of money before run out of month. We decided, do we do without electricity or gas? Because some months we couldn't afford to pay both. And being broke is being without money. Being poor is being kind of scarcity-minded, poor-minded. And we just realized that money's for the rich. Money's for the Americans. It's for the people who were born here, who went to college. And that's how I grew up. And later, Jim Franco taught me that, hey, you know what? You can't be scarcity-minded. You have to live in abundance. You have to understand that people just want a solution to a problem and they don't care about the color of your skin, about the level of your education. They want a solution to a problem. So he taught me, he had to break all these old patterns that I had, right?
What were some of the patterns?
Some of the patterns were that money's for the white folk and not for the foreigners.
You actually thought?
Yeah, I really, because that's how it was. Because every time we went and got more food stamps, it was all foreigners. There was no white people in line, at least not in the parts of Santa Ana that I was raised. And so I felt that money was for the people who were telling us to leave this country, go back to your own country. And that also puts a chip on your shoulder, right, against them. And so I guess I had some reverse racism towards white America. Now I realize for no apparent reason. There was a couple of idiots in every culture, I imagine, right? But so that was one pattern that I had. Another pattern that I had was that being proud to be blue collar. Like my dad was like, and he still says this, work is holy. And I believe that work is holy. But the fact that he had so many jobs, a paper route, pumping gas, worked at a pizzeria. And so because of that mindset, blue collar, we were always this blue collar mentality. And I took pride in being blue collar. Another pattern Jim Franco had to break was like, dude, be white collar. Don't use the shovel, sell the shovel. I'd never heard that phrase before. I'm the guy that took pride in, I could dig a deeper hole, a deeper trench, I could outwork you, but that's still trading time for dollars. And so to be able to break those limiting belief systems that I had, to me was huge. And all of a sudden I realized I'm no longer poor-minded. I may end up broke again. I do really well now, but I may make one or two bad decisions with my money or my investment and end up being broke again, but I'll never be poor. And I know how to get back from broke because I know how to add value to society, solve problems in exchange for money. But I'll never be poor again. And poor is a state of mind of feeling out of control, scarcity-minded, taking pride in being blue collar. No one should ever take pride in being blue collar, period. You've got a brain, you've got a solution to a problem that people want to pay for. Put it out there.
So when you say scarcity-minded, abundant-minded, what do you mean?
Well, a scarcity-minded person says, uh-oh, someone else opened up a gym, across the street from me, they're gonna put me out of business, I better charge less, right? The abundant-minded person says, someone else opened up a gym across the street from me, I better out-service them, outwork them, out-social media them, right? So the scarcity-minded person is always, the sky is falling, the Chicken Little mentality, oh my gosh, if Trump goes into office, then we're all screwed. Oh my gosh, if Hillary goes into office, then we're all screwed. I don't care who's in office anymore. I control my own economy. The economy can crash and go back up and back down again. I will find a way. As Tony Robbins says, I'm built for winter. I just didn't know it. And so more people need to be abundant-minded in that If the economy crashes, I just have to deliver more value and create this category of one about myself. If competition shows up, I have to outservice them, outwork them, out-social media them, versus shrivel up and die.
You've lived a life dominated by doubt and fear. How do you step into bravery? Step. That's how you step into bravery. Step. Take the step. Step aggressively towards your fear. And that step towards your fear is the step into bravery. Because we're scared of what we don't know. And there is only one way to learn and to know, and that is to confront that fear. You have to step, you have to go. And this simple action, this simple attitude, it answers so many questions. So many questions. How do you get to the gym every day? You step. You go. How do you change your diet? You step. You go. How do you overcome fear of failure or fear of success or fear of fear itself? You step. And how do you face the fear of the unknown? You step. Don't wait anymore. Don't think anymore. Don't plan anymore. Don't contemplate anymore. Don't make any more excuses or justifications. Don't rationalize anything else. No, no, and no. Instead, be aggressive. Take action now. And what is the first action that you need to take? What's the first step you need to take? The first step you need to take is just that. Step.
Whether it's personal or people around me, when you see people that are positive, that look at something good and something bad that took place, they move along in life faster, they're better, and people want to be around these people. I mean, too often people gossip. The one gossip person wants to be around the other person that gossips. But they don't realize when you gossip, you're saying something you heard about somebody else. You're telling everybody, what if part of it was wrong? You're gonna go out and tell every person you told this, oh, I'm sorry it was wrong. Tell everybody you told, it's not gonna happen. So it's things you learn about. Don't gossip, don't belittle people if you don't have to. God, please don't. Try and look at the positive angle. What good could come out of something? And that positiveness is gonna make you live longer, happier, and wake up in the morning happy, not, oh my God, I gotta go to work, I can't wait till I get home, I wanna retire, because people were not positive, they were not happy. And what happens when they retire? They hate their job, they retire, 3 or 4 years later they're dead because they have nothing to do. That positive attitude, be around positive people, encourage positiveness. If you find yourself walking around just complaining all the time around people that complain a lot, man, move or just try and do something different, change your life. Being positive and a positive attitude is find something positive and something bad. Makes you look for solutions. When I was down and out, oh, pop bottles, let's get the pop bottles, cash them in.
Everyone in this room knows how to create. You're not a manager of your life, you're a creator of your life, or you wouldn't be in this room. How do you create your life? You get hungry for something, don't you? Who has done something in your life that once seemed difficult or impossible, and now it's part of your life? Who's got something in your life in this area? Say I. How did you do it? You created it 3 ways. Number 1, you decided there's something you wanted so bad that you unleashed all your desire. You became obsessed with it. If it was a business or a car or a relationship or a transformation in your body, if there's something you once envisioned and now it's real, it's because you didn't just envision it, you brought so much emotion to it that now it's in your life. It was once a dream, it was once a goal, and now it's in your life. How many have something like that in your life now? Say I. You may take it for granted now, hopefully not, but it was once just a vision. It may have seemed impossible at one time. So how did you do it? You started with a concrete vision of what you wanted and you focused on it continuously, didn't you? Wherever focus goes, energy flows. You envisioned something, you got clear about it, and then you started thinking about all the reasons why you wanted it. You got excited about it. Said, this is what's next for me now. I want this. You may have dreamed about it, thought about it, talked about it. But when you focus on something continuously, something magical happens. You get insights, don't you? You overhear a conversation and you hear something you wouldn't have heard if you didn't have that outcome or goal that you wanted so badly. Who's ever come up with something, obsessed about it, didn't even know how to do it, and it just happened and it came together? Who's had that experience? Say I. So why don't we tap into that power now for your business and life?
I came home one night from work spraying for cockroaches. And long story short, I turned on the Discovery Channel. I saw some guys going through Navy SEAL training. And they were going through Hell Week and they were getting their ass just beat. You know, in and out of the water, guys ringing the bell. They were just suffering. And I was weighing like 297 pounds. And I had to make a change in my life. You know, I was at an all-time low and I wasn't going anywhere. And I was exactly what everybody said I was gonna be, which was nothing. So I had to make a change.
What was it about seeing suffering that's really interesting? And I actually get it, but I want to hear you explain it. Why suffering was the thing that triggered that thought?
Well, for me, growing up, I came from a horrible background. I got called nigger every day of my life growing up, lived in a small town. The Klan headquarters at that time was about 20 minutes from where I lived. Right. One of the high ups in the KKK, son, sat behind me in 2 classes, so he called me nigger all the time. I got my first car, they spray painted nigger, we're gonna kill you on it. So I was just an insecure, scared kid. And the only way I could find myself was to put myself through the worst thing possible. I'm gonna say the exact opposite of what today's world is saying. So we read a bunch of books nowadays. As humans, we wanna find out how to be someone else. What we don't do is we don't go inside. So literally turn yourself inside out. Read the book that's like we're writing a book every day of our lives. Every day we're seeing who we are as people. When I was growing up, I lied for people to accept me because I didn't accept myself. So I would make up stories so then you would accept me into your world. Everything I did was for someone else to like me. It wasn't until I started reading my own book about how pathetic I was as a human being. I can blame my dad, I can blame kids at school, I can blame having health issues, ADD, my mom not being around. Great mom, but she was doing her thing.
Right.
I could blame a lot of people. And that's the book I was reading. And I put it off on everybody else. It wasn't until I said, you know what, for me to fix this, I gotta read what the fuck is wrong with David Goggins? Not blame anybody. Read my book and say, okay, I'm afraid of my shadow. How can I overcome that? Go in the military, get your ass kicked, do things you hate to do, be uncomfortable every day of your life. Roger that. I'm not the smartest kid in the world. Okay. Instead of somebody saying, oh no, you're smart. No, don't say that to yourself. I said to myself, no, I'm a dumb. Okay, roger that. How you get smarter? Educate yourself. So the things that we run from the truth. We're running from the truth, man. So the only way I became successful was going towards the truth. As painful and as brutal as it is, it changed me. It allowed me to become, in my own right, who I am today.
Many people spend their lives in a state of almost permanent dissatisfaction.
Right.
Unfortunately. So they may be looking for some purpose, or they may have given up hope that there is some purpose for them, and they're just surviving or making a living.
Or caught up in the doing.
Caught up in the doing, in the stress of it.
Right.
And so usually when we talk about purpose, when people talk about purpose, they think of purpose in terms of future. Where am I going? What am I supposed to do? What's the direction I'm going in? What is my goal, the goal that I want to achieve? And that, of course, is there, it has its place, but I call that the outer purpose. More fundamental than the outer purpose is what most people usually overlook, and that is the realization that what matters most is finding your inner purpose. So, inner purpose is aligning your life fully with the present moment, so that you are no longer out of alignment with the present moment, which leads to the state of dissatisfaction that we talked about, that is the reality for many people. So you have to go, first of all, beyond the state of dissatisfaction that is so many people's reality.
Right.
But you cannot go beyond the state of dissatisfaction through some future goal that says, one day I would like to be in a state of fulfillment or satisfaction. No, you have to enter the state of fulfillment and satisfaction by becoming one internally with the present moment. And your purpose then, your inner purpose, is that alignment with where you are right now, to be totally where you are, and whatever you are doing, even if it doesn't look like the life purpose that you want for the next 30 years, whatever you are doing now, to be total in doing it, and no matter what it is, to be true to life by being true to this moment.
I always want to constantly evolve, I always want to constantly grow. I never want to get to a point where I feel like I got it figured out, I always want to kind of push myself to be better, and do greater things, no matter what it is. I mean, I want to be the best. I'm a competitor, I like to compete, growing up with, with the name Michael Jordan, I've always had a certain pressure on myself, and always having to kind of prove people wrong, and I just kind of put an instant chip on my shoulder of wanting to be great, and do great things, and also help people, man. I'm really big in the next generation. I feel like that's the only way it's going to get better moving forward, is if you got to lead this world in a better place than it was when you came in. I'm born in '87, dash, question mark. I don't know when I'm gone, you know what I'm saying? But I want to work on my dash, you know what I'm saying? I want to work on that time that I'm here. And it's, if I can make it easier for the next round of filmmakers and the next round of actors coming up, I'm content with going out on that.
Take it as it comes. Again, like I said, you were asking me about the future. I'll let you know a little bit closer. You know what I mean? All I can see right now is the gold. That's all I can see.
You need to bet on your strengths and don't give a about what you suck at. Way too many people in this room are gonna spend the next 30, 40 years of their lives trying to check the boxes of the things that they're not as good at, and that you're gonna waste a load of time and lose. I highly recommend auditing yourself, or if you have no empathy or EQ or self-awareness, then find somebody in your family or friendship that does, and let them tell you who you are. And once you believe that, either for yourself or someone else told you, go directly, all chips, all into that, because that is the only possible way, in my opinion, watching from the outside, that is a very highly likely way of over-indexing, because the truth is, if you want to be an anomaly, you've got to act like one. And so, that's it. That's what I got. So thanks for having me.
As I started studying people that did more, not people that didn't do more, not people that said do less, not people that said, hey, don't be satisfied or be satisfied, not people that said, hey, be grateful for what you have. I started studying people that said and had done more, that you can do more. That's who I listen to today. I listen to the people, my friends in my life, the people I listen to, the people I talk to, the people that I follow on Facebook or YouTube or Instagram. I don't follow everybody. I follow the people that say, you can do more, dude. I follow the people that say, I am doing more. I follow the people that are actually doing something on this planet to make a difference for the better. You have to be selective. You have to give something up, okay? You cannot listen to everybody, to every voice, to every person that's quit or given up. You got to make a decision. If you have that little voice inside of you that says you can do more, you have to give attention to that voice, and you got to feed it with those that support that idea that you can do more.
Focus on things that are AI driven, artificial intelligence driven, whether it's machine learning, deep learning neural networks, medical applications. But within AI is a buzzword that everybody's using right now. You know, and to that point, you know, we as old guys, we go back and it's like 1995, we talk about the internet. And I would say to people back in 1995, look, if you don't understand the internet, you're not going to be able to do business. And now that's just blocking and tackling. It seems obvious. Back then it wasn't. Right? I could even take you further back to my first company. You know, what we did, it was a company called Micro Solutions, and we did local area networks and wide area networks. And I used to walk into companies and say, you're gonna have to hook these PCs together at some point. That'll make you more productive, more effective, you know, give you a competitive advantage. And people are like, nah, I'll just carry this floppy from this PC to that PC. Yeah, okay. But today, we're at the same type of inflection point with artificial intelligence. You don't have to be an expert and be able to put together your own neural network. You know, you don't have to know what weights and biases are. But you have to have more than just a cursory understanding. Just like you have to know the difference between, you know, different types of websites, and you have to understand e-commerce if you're in e-commerce. You have to have a cursory understanding of how apps work. You're going to have at least, if not more, cursory understanding of artificial intelligence, because it will change everything we do. And if the internet was 10x in terms of change to business, artificial intelligence will be 100x or more. If you go to my house, right next to my bed, there's a book, Machine Learning for Dummies. If you go into my bathroom.
So that means taking things, using things in your life that are scars, using those moments as a weapon. Right? Using those as, you know, using basketball as kind of like a vehicle through which to express yourself, right? So at that moment, for us to face the Celtics again, it's not about the Celtics. It's not about your opponent. It's about you. It's about you taking your inner struggles and channeling that through the game, right? As a way to unleash, right? So now it became a matter of how do I express that to them? How do I get them to that point where they figure this out for themselves? Because I can't say, hey, listen, I need you to play harder.
So what'd you do?
Well, I had to share my story. I had to open up to them and let them know I've dealt with things. This is the things that I use. This is how I go about focus. This is how I deal with adversity. This is how I deal with, you know, arguing with my wife the day of a game and showing up to the game and still having that focus to be able to play. Like, I used those things to open up with them. And then in turn, they were able to take those stories and make them their own.
I've been making music now with, you know, like Tony Bennett for a couple of years, and you know, Elton John is, you know, one of my closest friends, and his husband David, and they just have showed me that, like, I'm a baby in my artistry, you know, and I just have to keep making music and keep going. And so my focus really for this album is showing that to young girls and to boys that want to make music, that you don't have to get lucky on the internet. It's not a social media game. You don't have to find a, you know, the hot producer and get the hot track, you know, to be a star. You can just learn how to play an instrument and sit in your room and practice and write songs and poetry, and then you can go around the corner to the bar and meet other artists that do the same thing that you do, and you can hang out and talk about music and write songs, and then you can play at the spot around the corner and gain one fan, and then do it over and over and over again until you're discovered.
You need to know what your unique strengths are and be willing to delegate. So I would say that the question of whether you should take a skill, learn it yourself, delegate it to someone else, or hire a new team member are determined by having a very accurate self-assessment and assessment of your team's skills. Not only what you can do, but what you should be doing. That's very important. So if you're a startup CEO or founder and you have a team of, say, 2 to 10 people, as soon as you have funds to hire, you should not be focused on the things that you're bad at. Sounds very, very intuitive, but it's not, because you might have enough time to do those things, but the question is, do you have the attention to dedicate to those things so they're not an interruption? Especially if you're a venture-backed startup and you're competing against other companies that also have a lot of funding, the game the game and the race goes to the swift, so you have to have a lot of velocity.
ESPN called me. They did a story on me this past summer, but they called me one day, and I picked up the phone. They said, "Is this Inky Johnson?" I said, "Last time I checked, I'm Inky Johnson." They said, "Is this the same guy that said if you could change what happened to you, you wouldn't?" I said, "Absolutely." They said, "It's our understanding the game of football meant the world to you." I said, "At one point, it did." They said, "It's our understanding that your family was banking on you making it to the NFL so they can have a better way of life." I said, "Yep, that's correct." They said, "We're coming to see you." I said, "All right, cool, come on." They said, "But we don't want to see you in Atlanta. We want to see you in Neyland Stadium on the exact yard line where your life changes. The same time of day. The only thing that won't be present is Air Force's team." I said, "All right, cool." And so they take me to Neyland Stadium, they put me on the exact yard line where my life changed. They said, "Now tell your younger self why you wouldn't stop your injury if you could. If you could be in the NFL right now making millions of dollars, tell your younger self why you wouldn't change that situation if you could." And I say the reason I wouldn't change it, believe it or not, it has nothing to do with me. Like on a personal level, he thought I was going to say, because of the man that I've become, the perspective that I've acquired, my faith has been fortified. He thought I was going to say something like that. I said, no, it has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with the lives that have been affected by the result of the process and the thing that I represent in the world. What my spirit represents when somebody see me, they think perseverance. What my spirit represents when somebody see me, they think don't quit. What my spirit represents when somebody see me, they think that's a quality individual right there. What my character represents in the world. And every single day we're putting something out like that represents something. When people see that, they think it's a thought that comes to the mind. When he said gold standard, he gave me that, I felt a certain type of way. When he gave me the gold standard, I felt a certain type, I felt different. Gold standard, I felt like that went with me. Because I think in what I do, the line of business I'm in, I'm the gold standard. Because I don't compromise. And every single day, I'm going to give you my very best. You can bet your bottom dollar. Every single day, I'm going to bring that gold standard to life. And I'm not just bringing it in one aspect of life. I'm bringing it in every single aspect of life. I'm not going to be one of these people in the world that's a public success, but they're a private failure. Meaning they give everything they got to one aspect of life, but the other areas, they lack off. No, I'm going to give every single thing I got to every aspect of my life because I represent something. When people see me, they think something. Whether that's character, never giving up, never surrendering. And the thing that we can never do is forget what we represent. Because that's how guys end up under a bridge on a cardboard box sleep. They forget what they represent when life hits them with adversity. My only charge for you, never forget what you represent.
There were other things that I probably should have done, not from my perspective. I mean, from my point of view, I did the right things. Every film that I've done, I'm happy that I made that choice. I don't have any regrets whatsoever. But I mean, in terms of sustaining box office, bankability, I should have done a few other things that I didn't do, but I'm glad I didn't do them, me.
Because it wouldn't have been you.
Yeah, it would have been for the wrong reasons. Everything that I've been lucky enough to do, I did for the right reasons.
First of all, you have to treat yourself like you matter. Because if you don't, then you don't take care of yourself, and you become vengeful and cruel. And you take it out on people around you, and you're not a positive force. None of that's good. So you suffer more, and so does everyone around you. And there's a malevolence that enters into it. None of that's good. So that's what happens if you don't treat yourself like you matter. And then, well, what happens if you don't treat other people like they matter? Well, you lie to them, you cheat them, you steal, you enter into impulsive relationships with them. They can't trust you. That doesn't go anywhere. They don't like you. You end up alone at best, and maybe like incarcerated at worst. Like that doesn't work. And so you watch the people around you who thrive, regardless of what they say. They act out the proposition that everyone matters. And then you have a functional society. And I think, okay, well, if when you act out the proposition that everyone matters, you have a functional society, maybe that's evidence that that proposition is true. It's like, I think it's true.